Okay, mic's up.
Good morning, Lagos. Thanks a lot for staying tuned here on Smooth 98.1. It's time for news analysis this morning. We have Adenike Oyetunde. Good morning, Adenike.
Good morning. Echo traffic, I know. The spirit of the book.
Honestly, channeling the spirit of the
On
book.
behalf of the
Yes, very, very. I mean, it wasn't funny at all for commuters on the road yesterday. You can find that on Twitter, and also beside her we have Justin Ijeh. Good morning, Justin.
morning, Lagos.
And Justin is at Justin EJ on Twitter. We are at Smooth 981 FM on Twitter. Please use the hashtag freshlypress981 to join the conversation. In addition to Twitter, we're on WhatsApp as well.
Yes, you can reach out to us on WhatsApp. That's 0809
And we're streaming live on YouTube if you'd like to watch, and also send in your comments through the live chat option. All right, let's move on to our first story this morning. I don't think I'll start with you. Buhari sacks controversial National Health Insurance Scheme boss, dissolves board. Now, the report states that 7 months after being recommended for dismissal, President Muhammad Buhari has finally sacked the Executive Secretary of the National Health Insurance Scheme, Professor Usman Yusuf, who has hitherto been on administrative leave. Could you please take us through this story?
Okay, so somehow this conversation has spanned a long period of time. And I remember watching on television a few years ago when they had some public hearing here and there about what was going on with the NHIS. Um, for those of us who may have forgotten, the Minister of Health at some certain point had suspended him, the presidency had reinstated him, and this was primarily owing to the fact that a lot of allegations had come up. And the initial problem was the fact, was to the tune of 919 million naira had been given to consultants to conduct staff trainings, and they had talked about how that was just wrong, all shades. As if that was not bad enough, there stories of enrollment of ghost subscribers on the scheme, overpayments to HMOs, and it was one issue after the other. So the president had been recommended to fire the executive secretary of NHIS, Professor Usman Yusuf, and he didn't do it. And people started to complain about whether the Minister of Health had the power to suspend and blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
They kept talking about it. Well, we woke up yesterday and the Director of Media, Federal Ministry of Health, Mrs. Wade Akinola, said in a statement that the President had appointed Professor Mohammed Sambo as the new head of NHIS. And like you mentioned, this was after the sacking of Usman Yusuf, who had been on administrative leave for such a long time. NHIS was, established in 1999, and one of the key reasons why it was established was to improve the health of Nigerians.
Yes.
And the question had been from 1999 up until 2019, how effective had it been? There had been, many stories of corruption here and there, and this particular executive secretary had been in the news for such a long time. Maybe relief, maybe respite for a number of people, but people are just hoping that what had happened before will not continue to happen. And it's insufficient that he's sacked. We need to know where the monies are. 130 something billion naira. They say we're trapped in 17 banks and financial institutions. We need to find out where the monies are.
Big
we need
question.
to trace exactly. So it's insufficient that he's been sacked.
Yes, I was going to ask Adenike that we talk about anti-graft war, and we're going to talk there's another story just immediately after this on another anti-graft war endeavor. But with this story, a number of people are asking the question: is a sack sufficient? Are we just happy? There's a report that seemingly indicts him for corrupt practices while in office. Should we just be satisfied with a sack? Should he be prosecuted? Should we see him behind bars if he's found guilty in court? Should we be asking
I'm sure you know the answers to that, because the EFCC and ICPC have already stepped in. So if they both have stepped in, it means that there has been some measure of thorough investigation.
Yes.
So that means that there is a
Evidence.
likelihood, exactly,
Mhm.
so we can proceed to court. I'm hoping again and that this whole rhetoric of sacking people and believing that that's the end of it doesn't continue, because it needs to stop.
Mhm.
It's too late to term it as nipping it in the bud, because
Mhm.
it's now more like a cultural practice of everyone, both the government and private individuals, and even private employers, as the case may be. It is insufficient. We need to see him face the full wrath of the law. Hopefully they have the concrete evidence to, adduce.
Unfortunately, Adenike,
They wouldn't.
you keep using that word.
I'm
Hope.
sorry.
But hope
That's
is
why I
not
said
hope
hope
is
now.
not a strategy.
It is not a strategy,
Mm.
actually.
You know, we've effectively assassinated citizen consequence. Like I
Yeah,
always say,
I
the
agree.
Alright,
imperative
talking
of
about-
consequence is dead.
Talking about citizen consequence, let's move on to the next story. So, court orders for forfeiture of patients Jonathan 7.5 billion naira and $8.4 million amounts of money. Justice Mojisola Olatoregun of the Federal High Court, Lagos, yesterday ordered the permanent forfeiture of 9.2 billion naira and $8.4 million recovered from Dame Patience Jonathan by the EFCC. I don't think we need any reminder that Patience is the wife of the former president, Goodluck Jonathan. So there are many questions around this, Justin. Number one is obviously the judge has ruled that there are no doubts that the monies are proceeds of unlawful activities, because it's almost impossible to trace how the former first lady was able to acquire such or amass such amounts of wealth in the time of being in office. So can you please just explain to us what happens next?
How she acquired it?
No, not how she acquired it. But what happens? What's the next step? I mean, we just talked about the case of the sacked controversial NHIS boss, and now we're talking about a former first lady being asked to forfeit huge sums of money by the court. Is it going to end there?
Well, one thing that this administration has not pretended about is that it is placing more emphasis and prioritizing recovery of funds over and above prosecution.
Okay.
In some cases, they reach plea bargain deals. In some cases, as we're seeing with Anti-Pepe, they just seize the money. And what interests me particularly in this story is, you see, we have these issues, just like most of the socio-cultural issues we deal with in the country. There are people who are enablers, right? Yes, I'm throwing shade, but I'm not. Now, Mrs. Johnson, through her counsel, Chief Ifedayo Adenike SAN, Chief Mike Ozekome SAN, Benga Oyewole SAN.
Names all the time.
These are the people defending Anti-Pepe on this issue. Let me just tell you what they've said in response to the ruling.
Okay.
But opposing the application, Adenike SAN had contended that it was wrong for the EFCC to tag the money as proceeds of crime when Mrs. Jonathan had not been charged with any crime, which is true, and when nobody complained that his or her money was missing.
Okay.
He said it is not the law that if EFCC finds money in an account and it doesn't like the owner's face, it comes to court and says forfeit it. And he goes on and on and on. Anyways, long story short, I believe this is the final ruling. I don't think there's any appeal.
Yeah.
This was an appeal in itself, right? So the money, 9.2 billion and 8.4 million, 9.2 billion naira and 8.4 million dollars has been forfeited to the federal government. And that puts pay to that. I don't think we're going to see prosecution here, honestly speaking. Yes, it's become a reality of our situation. Maybe when the dispensations, the times and the seasons of our lives in this country turn around and we change what it is that we prioritize, we will begin to see people held accountable to the full and maximum extent of the law for this kind of thing. But if this administration says, hey guys, listen, we probably won't be able to stand it. They're prosecuting this war against virtually everybody. The judiciary is on the receiving end of a big stick by the executive. I don't agree with that, but you could argue that they have their reasons for doing so. Justice has been for sale in the country for a while. We know that, allegedly, right? So if what they can do is get the money back, and then let the little fish back into the water and go and sin no more. Okay, fine. One less thief. to deal with.
All right. Okay. I appreciate your thoughts with regards to the fact that okay, let's at least celebrate this small win. But do you think that's what has gotten us
No,
to where
I'm
we
not
are?
celebrating it.
Okay,
I'm just
but
being
with regards
pragmatic.
to-
I'm just
okay,
being
yeah.
pragmatic and saying, listen, they
Because
are
we'll
not going to
get-
prosecute.
yeah.
There are backdoor deals that are made.
Mm.
I tell people in Nigeria we have two classes only: the politicians and the rest of us.
Mm.
All of the other things that we think divide us, it doesn't divide them. Not
At
religion,
all.
not money. So when they are sharing, all this is a case of it's my turn, right?
Yeah.
It's my turn. So you people should just stay in
Calm
your
down,
corner
yeah,
and
and
all
watch
that.
it, yeah.
Well, thanks a lot for your comments, but we do look forward to a time in our great nation where we will see prosecutions where it is obvious that
Yes,
money
we
has
do.
been
Yes, we do.
unlawfully
Yep.
gotten. Let's go on to our comments. We have some from WhatsApp.
Yeah, this one here from Emma from Akoka says, emphasis on the word finally. The foot dragging over the many shady dealings of NHIS was becoming unbecoming. If the president can keep up this energy across board, Nigeria will be better for it. And Show also says, hello. So don't forget, Lagos, you can reach out to us on 0809-444-0981 to get your messages across to us.
Fine, let's go on to this story that I have really tried not to touch on, but it's in the news in all the papers, and we definitely must weigh in on this. And that's an update on the COZA story. Just in case you don't know what's been happening, we've had over the weekend an interview on Friday morning. An interview was released by Y Niger TV, conducted by Chude Jidonwo with Busola Dakolo, where she Jidonwo, my apologies, and an interview with Busola Dakolo where she accused the senior pastor of the Commonwealth of Zion Assembly, COZA, I beg your pardon, Reverend Biodun Fatoyinbo, of alleged rape when she was still a minor. Well, a number of people have reacted to this story in particularly in the Christian fold, amidst, of course, celebrities, members of the public in Nigeria. But very importantly, finally, the Christian Association of Nigeria have reacted to this as well.
They didn't react as a united front. It was just 19 northern state heads, inclusive of the Abuja state chairman, that reacted.
But they were speaking on behalf of
No. Can presidency had stated clearly that they cannot interfere in the running of churches, and the only thing they serve as is intermediary between the church and the government. So I want us to understand that clearly, because I don't want a situation where in future there will now be a clash. The first statement we heard was from the current presidency, who had spoken through his spokesperson. So right now, CAN has now spoken under the aegis of the 19 state chapters, inclusive of the Abuja, where this particular church is operational. And like you mentioned earlier, a number of people across the board have responded. And what has continued to push the conversation is the fact that people are saying, as with the NHIS story, that one was sacked. Now the senior pastor has stepped down, and then he put out a statement saying that he's going to step down indefinitely and all of it. The reality now is people are saying there have been so many allegations of rape, which in itself is a crime. Does it now amount to sufficiency, the result of his stepping down, or are we going to see this being,
legal action taken,
the justice part of it coming to bear? And a lot of people are waiting anxiously and hoping for some sort that this will be done. There are elements of rape that must be proven, and unfortunately, I do not know yet of any case that has been successfully convicted based primarily on circumstantial evidences.
Only 18.
Circumstantial evidences, where is the point I'm getting at? Circumstantial evidences.
You never secure justice.
So the reality about it is now everybody understands clearly that not only is it sufficient that he has stepped down, we all know that.
So it's important that we also highlight, as someone that sent, thanks for a message from Ijeh, that he didn't step down, he took a leave of absence. It's important to also note
that was the terminology that was actually used. Honestly, it was leave of absence. Leave of absence really means what? He's not mounting the pulpit, which was one of the reasons that people had clamored for investigations to take place. So people were all watching. Like he mentioned 18 cases, and I remember when Ms. Ireti would always hammer on it that in the history of Nigeria, only 18 cases have been successfully convicted. And we hear there's
As
such
rape
a
cases,
exact
just-
rape cases.
yeah.
There's such a plethora of cases, accusations here and there. So we're watching and we're looking anxiously to seeing where this will lead. As the case may be.
Very
So all
quickly,
the
I need us
responses.
to respond to Shegun's question, Shegun's comments, because
Okay.
it's a reaction that a number of people have shared, a sentiment whilst this case has gone on, and that is that the Christian Association of Nigeria is seen to be at least an umbrella body for Christians and churches in Nigeria, even though not all churches are signed up to this because it's voluntary. We must note that. But Shegun says, so can interfere in church matters, cannot interfere in church matters, but can interfere in politics. You know, this is a big question.
They have mentioned. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So I think Khan basically just reminded all of us that they are actually just a lobby group.
Simple.
They are not in any form or manner purporting to be a bulwark of religious guidance or anything of the sort. They've made it clear, look, a lot of churches operate independent of any sort of oversight mechanism, which is what makes it more imperative that these churches have or begin to strengthen internal governance, because the man of God received a call from God. The man of God received a call from God and is the vision bearer, does not mean that he's answerable to nobody. That is not essentially what spiritual authority as contained in the Bible is, but that's the way a lot of them are operating. I hope that out of this, but there are so many angles to this issue.
Okay.
There's the legal angle.
Yes, that's
right?
why I'm not trying to focus.
Exactly.
I'm focusing more, on it as a wider, from a wider perspective.
from a much broader perspective.
Yes.
I hope that what comes out of this, for me personally, after looking at the whole thing, I said to myself, and I think I made a Facebook note about it. I said, we must address the issues of legal jurisprudence, right? The things in our laws that make it difficult to prove allegations of rape, that we continue to reinforce the reticence of victims from coming out because they ask themselves what's going to come out of it. The burden of proof standard in our laws is so stringent. It's almost as if it's stacked against the victim of rape, right? We need to go to the lawmakers. Where are the female lawmakers in our country? They need to take this outrage, channel it into changing or updating those archaic laws so that we can actually hold people accountable. Otherwise, at the end of the day, it's just going to be outrage for the sake of outrage. And that's
the quick one. The flip side to that is, as the lawmakers are ensuring that all that he's mentioned, we must also put in clear terms where false allegations are made and then proven.
Absolutely.
You must also face the full wrath of the law.
Absolutely. Thank you very much indeed. Because again, that's why a number of people have talked about false accusation. We've heard of cases in the United States where years afterwards it's come out to say it was false, and then people have based their judgment on this.
I mean, Neymar was a very recent example.
Lookman from Bagada on this case says, I'm in awe of the growing power of social media in Nigeria. The interview was released online and most of the pressure came online. Can we please channel some of this power to correcting many of the other ills in our society? We just might get there. Thanks, Lookman. All right, let's go on to the banking sector, Justin. So banks to tighten criteria on corporate loans according to the Central Bank of Nigeria. Vanguard reports this story. Can you kindly take us through the story?
Okay. So first of all, the central bank, this headline is very misleading. The central bank, it comes across as though the central bank has given a directive, right? There are established standards of collateralization for loans. The central bank now doesn't go around telling banks increase collateral requirements, blah, blah, blah. So this article generally is very poorly written. And I've noticed that when it comes to issues that come with the financial sector and regulations, we need to up our game in the media space, because this is poor financial reporting and the article is rambling, it's incoherent. They've just dumped all sorts of stats in here without weaving any narrative to it. Okay, but when you actually go through it, it's an extract from a report, which is more of a routine report that the CBN does, basically analyzing the current status of the lending market amongst deposit money banks. And what is being alluded to here really is, the IFRS reporting standard, International Financial Reporting Standards, was recently adopted in Nigeria a few years back, and incrementally banks are beginning to come under pressure because the standards of impairment under IFRS are much higher than what they used to be. So it's no longer, when you want to look at, is a loan bad? It's no longer in terms of has customer defaulted in repaying. A whole lot of things come into consideration now. One
Such
of
as
which,
what?
such as collateral, the quality of collateral you have, and all
Okay.
of that. So a lot of things play into this, and in the Nigerian financial space, you find that banks are looking for ways to improve their IFRS ratings. Now, one of the ways they could do that is to shore up collaterals. This is not a regulatory mandate. This is more of like IFRS basically
on their parts.
encourages you to self-regulate,
All
right.
right.
To improve by yourself. So that's what this is about before it creates a panic or a ripple in the market.
Thank you very much for clarifying that. I think that's very important. We'll go on to our next story.
Okay, this one comes to you, Adenike, and it's from the Punch newspaper. It says Labour threatens strike over delay in implementation. Now, the Joint National Public Service Negotiating Council and the 8 unions in public service across the country on Monday said its members would embark on an industrial strike over what they perceived as government's persistent effort to derail the implementation of the national minimum wage, which is 30,000.
Okay, so the summary of it is the association and actually the 8 trade unions in the public service have resolved that they have had enough with the federal government, and according to them, what they have said, the government's continued efforts at frustrating the takeoff of the new minimum wage regime as signed into law by President Muhammadu Buhari in April 2019 this year. Now, they had mentioned that they had proposed that the wage, knowing that it had increased by 66%, that officers on grade levels 0 to 17 be adjusted accordingly to maintain this new salary structure, but that the government had argued that such increase across the board would raise the total wage bill too high. At that point, the trade union now decided to review their demand downward and eventually settled for 30% for officers on grade levels 7 to 14 and 25% for those on grade levels 15 to 17. The government, on its own part, had insisted on 9.5% salary raise for employees on grade levels 7 to 14 and 5% for those on grade levels 15 to 17. And the claim now is that workers are accusing the government, for, according to them, for clear reasons of frustration. And what is burdensome to me is I'm not sure that the government possibly calculated the financial implication.
To go across board.
Exactly. So for you to agree and sign something into law and start to find a way to rationalize, no, let's give these ones 25%, let's give these ones 60%. I feel like anyone who listens and knows about it understands why those workers will demand everything that they are rightfully entitled to. And at a certain point where they say, you know what, Nigerians, we need all your support, maybe we should all listen and allow them. 30,000 naira, you and I know, can do barely nothing in today's economy. And a lot of these civil servants have families of their own. A lot of them have worked 30 years of service. In our generation, if you notice, a lot of us are not in civil service because our parents did 35 years of service and got only stereo jack. That's what happened to my father. So in this instance, a lot of us are frustrated, and a lot of us see if the labor wants us to come out and support them, I'm sure that if they put their acts together and tell us when to do what to do, we would do it. But the bigger question is, will the government yield, and will the government sit down and ask itself, are we ready indeed? We can't backtrack. We have signed it into law.
I was going to ask
when
that.
are we
They're
going to do
struggling
it?
with pain.
Yes.
Because they're struggling with pain, what can you recommend?
Why did they sign it? Why did they sign it? Was futuristic? Were they hoping it was
I
futuristic?
can recommend plenty things.
Why did they
Can
sign
you
it?
recommend, please?
Oh,
Justin?
first of all,
Or kindly
all
suggest?
of the
All
senators
these
in the
public
House
politicians, stop it.
who used to be governors need to stop collecting pensions.
Simple.
We rechannel that money.
Okay.
All of the bogus allowances that they receive can be rechanneled and repurposed, right? We can cut down the size of government convoys. When you see your governor passing, how many cars is he driving in one convoy to move one man around?
I saw one the other day. I was
Right?
quite shocked.
God
There,
bless you.
it's glaring
Ludicrous.
how we can cut it down. Public servants, for instance, can travel economy when they're traveling. All the entourages that are flying and they're all.
Let's see by the business class.
Oh yes.
All right. Thank
All
you
right,
very
thank you
much.
very much.
Justin.
Let's quickly get to the next story. This one here says from the Guardian newspaper, PDP wants Buhari probed over alleged rise in graft and insecurity. And well, it basically just says that the National Assembly wants to investigate what it called widespread insecurity economic depression, treasury looting, abuse of office, and violations that stamped the present Buhari-led administration since May 2019. Justin?
You know, this reminds me of when my son was an infant and he would throw a fit and start throwing his toys out of the pram. You know, just bah, 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 and throwing things all over. But listen, playing opposition politics doesn't mean throwing a fit and crying all over the place. Because you can start the what I consider to be ad hominem argument of, but you guys were in power for 19 or was it 16 years, right? And the foundations for all whatever we are going through today were laid over those years. But I'm not going to do that. I'm basically going to say the PDP needs to realize this is 2019. We are not democratic infants per se anymore. We've been at this game for quite a couple of decades right now. So you need to evolve from when we are not in power, the only thing we need to do is throw rocks and stones at the other guys. You need to run a shadow government. So for everything that the APC is doing wrong, you should be coming out and telling us, no, this is how it should be done. This is what we would have done. This is how we would have done it. Look at the things that they're asking you to probe, okay? Where's that thing? The siphoning of 32 million repatriated funds and trillions of naira stolen under shady projects such as Trader Money Project. Trader Money Project is not shady. You might disagree with it. I might not agree with, is that the best use of the funds by the government? You could actually even argue that, oh, they did it close to elections, which a lot of people have done, and it was a way of funding campaigns. Yeah. But you can't call it shady. That's what I mean. You're just acting like a baby throwing toys.
So you recommend a shadow government as opposed to outright probing of some projects that has been listed?
Well, shadow government opposition, that's basically, so in regards to not just being there to make noise and, well, not, I wouldn't use the word make noise, but just
rabble-rousing.
Talk about things, yes. But be very specific in areas and issues that they're tackling or policies that they're trying to challenge that the government have come up with, as opposed to just...
I mean, you don't talk about things like the humongous looting under the Buhari administration. This is a political party. It's not just somebody commenting on the sidelines. Be more responsible than this.
All right, Justin, thank you very much for that one. We have messages up on our WhatsApp platform. But before we get into those ones, let's quickly take the story. This one comes to Adenike. Real quick, it says from Daily Times, our expectations as 9th Assembly resumes. And it goes on and on, really.
Honestly, there's nothing here. As expectant as the legislators are, I guess that's a reflection that it has on all the citizenry. Everyone is expectant. We want more action. There are many things that we have to look at here. You know, Justin had talked about the administration of incorporated trustees as it concerns churches and mosques. Those are conversations that have to come up. We have to talk about laws, talk about rape laws, talk about employment laws, talk about human trafficking laws. These are things that we have to talk about. So expectations put work into action and then give us, as they have claimed, that they're going to give us the very best.
Raise the age of consent.
Exactly.
Because technically speaking, that thing that happened, if you take it to court, it won't be classified as rape because the age of consent is much lower than what we generally call. The penal code. The penal code has it as 14.
Hold on. What I'm saying is that rape is not consensual, intercourse. So under whatever age it is. So just to put it there. So if she were willing and we're looking at statutory rape, that's a different conversation. Yes. But rape is when you force yourself on someone. So just to establish that.
The point is, a lot of us are expectant. There are many things. We're looking at power generation, distribution. We're looking at the financial sector. They help. NHIS is there. Gentlemen, old daddies, grandpas that are there that have turned this place to their retirement plans. We are expecting you to do more. And as you can see, we're hoping that the momentum with how Nigerians are shouting against things that we don't like will continue to take it even into governance and politics.
All right, thank you very much, Adenike. I think we have messages up on YouTube.
Yes, we have messages on YouTube. Olakoejo, thanks a lot, says, and Olakoejo is a resident barrister. Auntie Pepe has a right of appeal to the Court of Appeal, even up to the Supreme Court, as this was
Okay.
a High Court judgment. Thanks a lot. Unfortunately, that's all we can take on today's Freshly Pressed 981 story. But don't forget, at 9 o'clock during Lagos Talks 981, we will be looking at one of the stories from this morning and opening the phone line to get you talking. But thanks a lot to our analysts for this morning, Adenike Oyetunde on Twitter, and Justin at Justin Ijeh on Twitter as well. Again, follow us at Smooth 981 FM and use the hashtag Freshly Pressed 981 to continue the conversation online. Right now, we're going to break to come back for Grapevine 981.
Oh yeah, let's